That's insane. Okay, third audio test. You look nice on camera. On camera. We're on and popping. It's taken me like more time than I'd like to admit to be able to find a component of my system that is important to making the system run the way that I want it to. But I was previously using hair ties as belts, like little tiny itty bitty hair ties. Since then, I have grown up and acquired real cassette belts. Such is life in like designing systems that work. This cassette player was working for a while, but it didn't work long term. And we're here in the interest of designing systems that work long term. And I have recently seen some things in the news about like, could we engineer solutions to climate change? Like, could we back engineer the problems that we've created? And my immediate reaction to that New York Times article was like, yeah, duh, we have to. We got ourselves into this mess, and also we're gonna need to be the ones that get ourselves out of it. What year was Gaia hypothesis?
70s. Either 60s or 70s, I can't remember. Largely talking about the guy who originated the theory, James Lovelock.
A lovely guy.
One of the weird things that stuck with me was that despite his area of study, politically speaking, he started out very much as a social democrat, interested in social equity, and then over the course of his life, as many people do, moved further and further towards the right, solidifying a relationship with Shell Oil that no one ever really understood. How could this be an organization you're comfortable working with and backing to the extent that he did?
Dollar bills, right?
Dollar bills, baby.
That's insane.
That's how the homie lived till 103. Like,
he lived till... Wait, why did you do so much more research than I did? You're the best. This is Max. What? Yeah. Okay, to back up, the Gaia hypothesis is this kind of like radical 1970s publication from a couple different like geologists or like geo something, a couple extra acronyms in there, scientists that were basically effectively saying something that I'm sure every indigenous culture had said a millennia ago, which is that the earth is a living being. And as a living being, all like components work in harmony when the earth is healthy, and that the planet, like a person, can be sick and can be well and can be like nursed to health through like methods of holistic healing. I think in the age of like big data and AI, it's easier than ever to have and map and understand complicated systems and run simulations on what would happen. They do it for pandemic calculations as well. Like, the disease propagates this quickly, it transfers to people this easily. All of those numbers help us make systems models to map biological systems and how fast the disease would spread or how well a drug would take effect on a particular body system. But now, what if we did that on the whole planet? What if we came up with a medicine for emissions and mapped it out with our supercomputers to figure out which medicines would be the most effective, and then we implemented them? It's my like hunch, you can come at me if you want to, but it's my hunch that we could reverse, because the earth is a living system, we could reverse a lot of the negative effects of what we've done, what we've inflicted to ourselves, if only we had the like political alignment to make stuff like this happen. And that's not a new idea that the earth works as a living system. There's this like interaction of like dust leaves from the Sahara, and then the dust becomes food for the plankton in the ocean, and the plankton in the ocean becomes food for everything up the food chain, and the ocean absorbing heat is what allows like us to maintain homeostasis. And the science is all about systems and homeostasis. Oh, what do we do? This other thing is that the belt is the right size, but it's too thick. And in the real world, it'd be like that. Find something that it was so hard to find, and then you get it and it's not right. What do?
You see obvious answers.
You see a way to make a system work. You have big ideas about ways that systems work, and then the real world politics, if let's say you were a researcher, none of that research would get funded. I actually applied for PhD programs, and I got into an interview, this like fancy biomedical engineering big data analysis program, and I went there, and she was like, what do you want to study with big data analysis? And I was like, well, I really want to study well-being, because we are constantly studying disease states, but why aren't we studying well-being? And I accidentally called myself a futurist, and then I didn't get the job.
Rude.
I didn't get the job.
Extremely rude.
But she was a new researcher, and she had just got funded for like 5 years, and I can see now that I was a risk to her.
Right. The kinds of truths that we hear in something like Gaia hypothesis, some of the same kinds of feelings of knowing that we feel when we hear about something like that. The earth is alive and takes action in order to balance and protect itself. Generations of indigenous people who lived by that code all around the world. You know, sure, it is unbelievably frustrating for people who have lived in harmony with the earth and have been screaming and trying to shake anyone they can meet to say, hey, those test tubes are really cool. Those sensors are great. We're gonna need them. But we've been doing this a really long time and have had great success. Great success that only recently the scientific community has started to measure in a meaningful way. A way that is only now starting to influence policy, and I'm grateful that it is, but it is really late in the game.
We gotta move.
That was go.
I'm done with the cassette player because I need to get a different... In this book, he talks about how... he talks about how sometimes you have to move faster than you have data to prove. One of his examples was that when people were dying of like non-sanitary city conditions, they just had to start trying things to improve sanitation, and if it worked, it stuck, and if it didn't, they kept moving.
Right.
And like some of these civil engineering projects have to happen faster than you can collect data to figure out, and I think it's the same thing. And with all the tools and sensors and computational power that we have, so what? Like, all right, so if we have the tech, we're gonna work on the political straight shot, removing of blockades. What about the personal resources, mentality, state of mind are we gonna need to make stuff like that happen?
I feel like it starts with really conscious and consistent efforts to reconnect to the earth. That feels like it has to come first because there have been a lot of consequences to choices made over the last 100 years that have both intentionally and unintentionally brought people much further from their connection to the earth than they've ever been. I know that, going for hikes and going camping and that sort of connection isn't going to work for everybody for a number of reasons, but I am confident that there is an avenue, there is a path for everyone to find that little spark of connection that they hadn't felt before.
As we're more and more screen, intellectual thought realm currency, which is valid and sick, I'm just echoing your point. Like, everybody has to find their own way to connect with their body, which is also in turn a connection with the body of the earth. Which is a living system, which has operating functions like it was a body, which it is.
Get out, touch grass, baby.
Touch grass. That could be the end.